certainly something to watch out for, not only if Trump, God forbid, gets back in the White House, but if any Republican does, that there's just going to be this little network of servants. We've seen how it worked out in our court system. It's abhorrent. We've seen how, Trump and the Republicans have designed this system where they can rewrite the laws, appoint their own judges, even their own juries to some extent. They use tactics of intimidation and threats of violence to control the jury as well. And then there's no punishment for any of it. It's gone on now for so long that I think people are used to it. And honestly, that's the thing that reminds me most of Hungary, is that the shock of all of these tactics has truly faded and people have come to expect them. And I was in Hungary in 2017, about a year after the election, but after Orban had, been somewhat firmly established and was already purging, academia, journalism, and the political system and packing it with his lackeys. And I just remember talking to Hungarian intellectuals there, some of whom were crying because they had worked so hard to try to make Hungary a better place, and especially to shed some of the worst elements of its communist past, of that state surveillance apparatus that denied people basic freedoms, only to have this happen, under the guise of hyper-nationalism under Orban. And then the longer it goes on, the harder it is to turn back. And that is why I keep insisting to people, like, do not make excuses for anyone. Do not let yourself get used to it. And do not make excuses for the people that are, quote unquote, on our side who are failing us, because the bottom line is they're failing us. And, I feel like a lot of times the people with the least amount of power are getting blamed for things, and those who hold enormous power, enormous capacity to make change, to make people's lives better, they're refusing to wield that power. And, that's just a sinful thing. So I think that's the last question, but, just don't back down. Even if you're like really, really tired and you don't feel like going out and doing all this activist stuff, or even like leaving your house at all. I find that completely understandable. That's kind of the point I'm at, dealing with a family tragedy and assorted things. But mentally, in my mind, they will never, ever get me. They are never going to take me down. And it doesn't matter how many horrific things that they do or that they tell me to get used to. I'm never going to get used to any of them. And I'm never going to accept any of them. And I'm never going to excuse any of them. And I'm never going to forget the victims of any of them. These horrific policies, these, dehumanizing practices that we've seen for the last 8 years. And of course, that have their roots in policies formed long beforehand. I'm not going to let it change who I am on a moral basis. And if that's all I'm able to do at this time, then that's all I'm able to do. And I think a lot of you, our listeners, you're in the same position and you feel this kind of pressure, everything's on your shoulders. And at this point, especially after COVID, after just years of this and so many tragedies, there's a level of exhaustion. And I just want to say it's completely understandable. And there's nothing wrong with kind of retreating a little bit, as long as you don't let them get your soul, and your heart and your mind. As long as you keep them away from that, then you can survive these times.